Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you are. I'm Iman, and I would like to welcome our audience and our speakers to the second IEEE UK and Ireland Women in Engineering UKI Ambassador Program, Challenges and Opportunities Toward Better WIE Future. So the first thing, we will just say some of the housekeepings, and that is the attendance notice. So during the webinar, you will not be able to video share or activate your microphones. We request participants to use the Q&A panel to post questions. At the end of the panelist talk, the moderator will select some of the questions submitted, and we will try to cover as many questions as possible depending on the time. And any questions and answers not covered live during the call will be emailed to all the participants. So this webinar will be recorded and broadcasted on IEEE UKI and our sections. The link to access the recording and the presentations will be sent to all after the webinar, after the workshop. So we will ask the audience to take a short questionnaire at the end just to improve what we are doing. And now I'll just give the talk to Dr. Nagham Saeed to introduce the workshop.
Thank you, Iman, and hello, everyone. I'm Nagham Saeed, the IEEE Women in Engineering United Kingdom and Ireland Ambassadors Network Lead. I would like to welcome everyone joining our Ambassador Second Program, Challenges and Opportunities Towards Better WIE Future webinar. I would like to start with a warm welcome to President Susan Cathy Land in this Women in Engineering event, which was organized under the Ambassadors Scheme Program. We are delighted to have the IEEE President in our panel today. I'm also honored to be joined by Professor Amir Alani, Executive Dean of the School of Computing and Engineering at the University of West London, Dr. Maysam Abbod, Director of Departmental Research and Director of the Undergraduate EEE course at Brunel University, Ifey Njoku, the Senior Site Reliability Engineer Manager at Sky, Ruth, Lennon, the ACM Women Europe Chair, and our Annabel, Latham, the IEEE Women in Engineering UKI Chair. And I finally would like to welcome our audience today from United Kingdom and Ireland, USA, Japan, Egypt, and Ukraine, which are promised a workshop besides discussing the challenges and opportunities available for women in engineering. It will also offer valuable advice while evaluating women engineering position, both globally and nationally. Next slide, please, Iman. So the agenda for today, the first part of this event will be individual talks by our panelists, and the second part will be questions and answers. Over to you, Iman.
Iman, you're on mute, I think.
I'm sorry for that. So I'm introducing Annabel. So she is IEEE Women in Engineering UKI Chair. She is a senior member of the IEEE Computational Intelligence Society, IEEE Women in Engineering Society, senior lecturer in Department of Computing and Mathematics at Manchester University, STEM Ambassador, Chair of the IEEE CIS Educational Repository Subcommittee. So it's for you now, Annabel.
Thank you. Let's share my screen, sorry. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. Thank you very much for arranging this event. We have this new IEEE Women in Engineering Ambassadors Network in the UK and Ireland, which has been fantastic. So well done to the ambassadors and to Nagham, who leads that programme. Some exciting events here. I'm going to talk a little bit about women in engineering, and then I'm going to move on. So just to tell you what I'm going to talk about, I'll first of all introduce a little bit about me. I'm delighted you've used the word challenges and not barriers in this. So just going to give you a quick overview of me, then very briefly introduce IEEE and women in engineering, and then tell you about some of the opportunities we have in our UK and Ireland for our Women in Engineering group. And then I've got an announcement to make at the end. Okay, so a little bit about me first. I was brought up in Europe. I travelled a lot when I was a child. So I was educated in the English education system in Norway and Holland. And then I came back to the UK to go to university, UMIST, which has merged now with Manchester Uni. Following that, then I moved into the software industry, and I worked for quite a few financial software houses in various roles, training, writing technical documents, etc. So IBIS was the first, Multisoft was the second. And then I worked for an organisation that used to be part of the UK, it used to be a UK government type of organisation called the National Computing Centre, and it has various educational programmes overseas. So I did quite a lot of development of educational programmes in computer science, as well as quite a lot of travel in that role. And while there, I had a little baby boy, which inspired me to change my role, because I would go away for a month at a time to the Far East, and I didn't want to do that with a little 4-month-old baby at home. So what I decided to do actually was to go back to university. I went back there to work, but then I decided to go back to academia to do a master's, and during which time I had a little girl, and then to do a PhD as a student at Manchester Met. And then I decided to, I got a job there as a tutor. I had a brief stint at the University of Liverpool as a lecturer, which was the job I wanted. It's why I gave up all of these things to go back to academia. And then finally, I'm back at Manchester Met again, doing the job I wanted to do. So I wanted to present this because I've had quite an unusual career path, and it has definitely had challenges in it, but obviously I have decided partway through to change my career. I've also decided to have a family, and I've just carried on, and everything's gone great. So that's my little bit about challenges. The rest is hopefully all about opportunities. So very briefly, because we have the president here, the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers is the world's largest technical professional organisation for the advancement of technology, and it's dedicated to advancing technology for the benefit of humanity, which I think is a fantastic goal. Women in Engineering then is part of the IEEE, and it is the largest international professional organisation that is dedicated to promoting women engineers and scientists. So with a goal of facilitating recruitment and retention of women in technical disciplines globally, which in many, many countries is quite a challenge. Okay, and we are a diverse community. So we are envisaging our image of the future as a vibrant community of men and women who collectively work together for that goal. So women in engineering by the numbers. There are over 900 affinity groups for women in engineering IEEE across the world, and we're in over 100 countries, and there are 20,000 plus members. So we are based in Region 8 in UK and Ireland, just to give you a bit of context globally about our network. I wanted to very briefly show you the committee, just to show you that we are all a sort of diverse set of people who do this for fun in our own time. We are quite active, and we won the Region 8 Affinity Group of the Year award in 2019. So we've got lots of great activities going on, and there's lots of opportunities for lots of people to get involved and to try and push forward the promotion of women into technical disciplines at all ages. Here is a list of some of our activities. I've only got a short time, so we've launched this ambassador scheme, which has been fantastic to promote, to get different sorts of people involved in volunteering and to promote more events. We're doing quite a few joint events with chapters, distinguished lectures. We've got the Power of Data coming up on International Women in Engineering Day. We've had a drive for senior membership, so we've got workshops and support network in place, and we have improved the number of senior members in women in our section. Last year we had quite a lot of success, and we are continually pushing for gender diversified panels at all IEEE meetings, conferences, etc. We currently have a section chair who is female, which is fantastic. We've got a database of keynote speakers that we are trying to monitor, to push, to promote different speakers. And then we do lots of school outreach and public events. In this last COVID year, it's been trickier to do that. We've tended to focus a little bit more on online events for the members. Okay, just thought then I would add to that some photographs of us doing various things. There's a lot of us that are working quite actively trying to promote women at all ages. And as any of you that do outreach probably know, when we are in schools, in younger age group schools, there's a huge enthusiasm for technical subjects, for engineering, computer science. And as we hit kind of early teenage years, we tend to hit a kind of social cultural change. I don't know why, and then that tends to lessen. So promoting it to families, to schools, to careers advisors, to everybody is a kind of cultural change that we need. So that's what we aim for. We also create posters, so please let me know if you want to be on one, that we try and put up wherever we go, so that we're just representing the fact that there's lots of different people doing different things. Okay, and then I want to do my announcement finally. So we are just about to announce, or just announcing now, I guess, our new award scheme for the UK and Ireland section Women in Engineering. And this is open to everybody across our section. And we are hoping to make sure that we've got geographical representation. We're not just focused in one area of the region, and we're also looking for different levels and different types of engineers and computer scientists for within this scheme. So there will be more information forthcoming, but I wanted to announce it at this glorious event. So we've got 4 awards this year. We've got our Award for Excellence in Engineering, and that's for encouraging the promotion of women in engineering. We've got the Change Catalysts for Equal Engineering. So we're looking at within an organisation driving change in equality processes, and we're looking for technical people that do this, by the way, not people in the job of doing this in a diversity role. We have our 3rd award, which is going to be named after a famous and inspirational women engineer from our region. This year it's Kay McNulty, and that's for an early career engineer who has demonstrable potential in the technical field. And then finally, our Inspirational Volunteer Award, which is for someone who promotes engineering and related fields with particular emphasis on encouraging girls and women. So this is going to be launched on our website very soon. The deadline for entries is going to be, I think, 12th of September, so beginning of September, and we will announce the awards at an event that we will do in November, December time. The rules are, you don't actually have to be a Women in Engineering member, and you don't actually have to be an IEEE member, but the person, but you may be, or the person who is nominating you must be. And there will be various rules. You can check out our website for those. So that's going to be a fantastic way to recognize all the really good work that goes on across our fabulous region. And my closing request is just to grasp the opportunities. There are actually lots of opportunities about. There's opportunities to get involved if you're excited and engaged. And please contact us on social media, check out our website, and yeah, I look forward to seeing what amazing things we do next. Thank you. Stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabel, for that. It was amazing. So, and now we are moving to our second speaker. 1 minute, please. Okay, just 1 minute. So moving to our second speaker, Susan. So she is the IEEE President and CEO. So she is Program Manager for the US Department of Defense's Missile Defense Agency. She has 30 years plus of industry experience in many things like the application of software engineering methodologies, management of information system, leadership of software development team, and she was the Vice President on 2018 for IEEE Technical Activities. And in 2009, she was the President of the IEEE Computer Society. She is IEEE Fellow. She is an author of many IEEE publications. So we are now with you, Susan. I'll stop sharing my screen and then you can start. Thank you.
Okay, so I shared my screen, so hopefully you can see, and I'm not on mute. So hopefully everything's working.
Yes, it is.
So somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear and see.
Yes, we can hear you. We can see the screen, yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so hello everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking Dr. Nagham, Saeed, and Iman El-Dessouki, IEEE WIE ambassadors, for the invitation to participate today. I'm always very grateful when someone reaches out to invite me to participate. For some reason, people are hesitant to do that, and I greatly appreciate the invitations. I really like to participate in what our members are doing, so thank you. So I'll start. So today I'm going to speak about the following. What is women's empowerment? Why does this matter? How does IEEE support this important issue? And what are some of our continuing challenges? I always like to do some research, and I'm going to talk about what you're hearing today and what you don't hear, which is equally important, and what you can do. All right, so I always like to start with definitions. If you listen to some of my talks, it's what I typically do. So the definition of empowerment, since my talk is about women's empowerment, empowerment is the process of supporting another person or persons as they discover and claim their personal power. And to put this in context, and at its most basic, that this would mean encouraging and allowing women to be self-reliant and economically independent. Empowerment is a process of increasing the capability of people to make choices, to transform those choices into desired actions or outcomes, and basically moving people from I can't to I can. So what exactly is women's empowerment? It's about providing support for women to have a voice, opportunity, and choice without disastrous consequences. Women's empowerment is about making it possible for women to participate fully in society. And this type of participation means different things to different people. And it's about personal choice, about enabling personal choice. And I want to say at the start of my talk that empowerment is important for every human being, regardless of gender. We all deserve to live a life that we choose according to the terms that are right for us. So discrimination against women still exists, even now in the 21st century, even though about 50% of the world's population are women. And that's important to discuss. It's terrifically unfortunate, but in some countries, women are still denied basic rights. Even in the US, I live in a state, Alabama. I have to be very careful where I live, even though this is what we might call a first world problem. I have to be careful about making sure that my rights are protected. Wills. If something happens to my husband, here's an example, and he is incapacitated, I have to make sure that we have durable power of attorney, or our accounts are frozen. And I can't, as a woman in Alabama, in the United States, I can't get access to our accounts. So that is in the United States in the 21st century, but it's more devastating for other women in other parts of the world. Women should have rights to equal education, freedom of speech, the right to vote, and independent identity. And this does not exist in many parts of the world. So why is this important, particularly for those of us working in technology? So for those of us who create technology and who love how technologies empower us and improve our lives, this is why I support IEEE. The mission and vision of IEEE, it helps us shape the future of technology for the benefit of humanity. Technology is not an industry. It's a method of transforming culture at its best. It transforms economies, existing systems, institutions. Technology is a great equalizer because of the application of intelligence to solve great problems. But technology is not neutral. Its use changes our lives. The choices that developers make have profound impacts on our privacy, security, and even our civil rights as users. And therefore, it's important that developers be diverse and representative of the populations they're developing for. People that are creating technologies are its influencers. And a lack of diverse ideas and representation can lead to further disparities between gender, race, and class. The reason that IEEE is such a great community is that it's a powerful technology enabler. IEEE facilitates, through its collaborative membership networks and technical communities, great collaborative discussions. And that's why it's important that, and why WIE is such a great part of this, that we support diversity and inclusion. So again, fundamentally, it's a human rights issue. Discrimination has no place in the 21st century. And it's important that we say this, that we come out and we not sort of, walk around the issue, that we come out and we say that we should not discriminate, that we should be inclusive, and that we should support diversity. And that's why IEEE and the board of directors endorsed a new diversity and inclusion statement in the last year. Every girl has a right to go to school. Every woman has the right to stay safe from violence and the right to access health services and to fully participate in her community. IEEE is a global organization and we represent a large and diverse constituency. And this not only means for WIE, it means that our constituency, regions 1 through 10, should be represented on our committees, on our boards, that our membership be geographically represented on all our committees. And that's important. And that's what we're tracking as well on diversity and inclusion efforts, that we have this geographic diversity as well as gender diversity. So a number of committees within IEEE over the past number of years have been doing some very important work. In 2019, the IEEE board, again, I mentioned this before, approved a diversity and inclusion statement, and it's displayed on the slide. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will mention the bolded pieces of it. That this statement that was endorsed requires the talents and perspectives of people with different personal, cultural, and disciplinary backgrounds. This is important because many people do not realize that IEEE's field of interest is very broad. It includes everything from people with educational degrees to engineering degrees, computer science degrees, but basically people from all fields of interest. Law is included in there. So we need to remember this as we're supporting our IEEE mission and vision. It's not just electrical engineering. Also that we promote an inclusive and equitable culture, that we try to be as inclusive as possible and listen to everyone's ideas and be respectful. So we live again in a world of that's full of complex problems. And to solve those problems requires an environment of collaboration with active and open engagement. It's hard to listen. It's hard to be as engaging as possible when you really believe strongly in your own ideas. Sometimes I feel like we have our own version of scientific cancel culture, and we need to be aware of that and guard against it, particularly in IEEE. We need to provide an environment where every individual's passion and commitment are engaged, respected, and empowered. Where we can all work together to support IEEE's mission to advance technology for humanity. I believe it's vital that we live up to the ideals expressed in our code of ethics, that IEEE be a place where people feel welcome and included, where we should welcome new and challenging ideas. This is what IEEE is known for. It's my hope we can move forward to work together, that IEEE continues to support robust diversity of thought, where differences of opinion can be discussed and resolved collegially, and where we can find consensus in expanding and furthering IEEE's mission. We must continue to work together to create safe and supportive environments free from bullying. That has been an issue in the recent 3 to 4 years on some of the committees that I've been on and some of the meetings that I've been in. And we have done some things recently to stop this activity. We need to work to attract and nurture individuals who strive for professional and technical growth. And bullying is not the way to do that. So, and this is what we did. In 2020, the IEEE Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct were revised. Our reporting processes for ethics complaints was completely revised. In the past, it took an average of 2.5 years to report an ethics complaint. You had to mail it in, a certified copy. It was a very outdated process. Now, in April 1st this year, revising this took about 2 years, getting a new online reporting process. But this was rolled out April 1st, and the average anticipating resolution period should be about 30 days. Anyway, so this is a new online process for reporting ethics complaints. So I'm very excited to announce this. I do ask all volunteers and members to help us continue to advance the work of diversity and inclusion. This work is ongoing. There are a couple of things I'd like to highlight that we are continuing this year. I currently have an ad hoc at the IEEE level that has been working for the last couple of years. In November, this committee will propose to the IEEE Board of Directors that this will be a new permanent committee within IEEE. We're rolling out a website that will host things like an annual diversity report for all IEEE. It will be external facing, so it will be public. It will have things like diversity metrics that will be reported across IEEE and showcase our best practices. IEEE is leading in nonprofits in this area, so it's something that we should all be very proud of. So it's continuing challenges. So for years, I've heard if you want to get ahead, find a mentor, or real success for a woman means that she's a member of the corporate C-suite, or that equal pay means equal equality. But, and I've thought a lot about these things as a member of the C-suite, or, having had equal pay. And I think that these are all interesting, but not necessarily true. And as you heard from our first speaker, the WIE chair, real success is defined by the individual who has set a goal and achieved it. For example, going back to school, becoming an academic, getting your PhD, setting personal goals of, having another child. But you need to think about your personal goals. Mentors are great, but I've seen some mentors define and set goals for individuals that weren't necessarily aligned with what their personal goals were. Sometimes a strong peer group is often a better source of helping define or shape what you want to become. Equal pay for equal work is a requirement, but real equality is equal pay, equal work, and equal treatment. And that's sometimes hard to find. So what you often find is pay disparity in the type of work, as well as the type of treatment. And this must stop. It's important to remind girls and women that jobs in technical fields are gender neutral. Any job where you use your brain is gender neutral. Jobs where leadership and management of complex, high-performing teams, this is where women thrive. If you have the best idea, you're going to be viewed more equally than in fields where that's not necessarily the case. So what you can do, there's an article by Deloitte Research that shows that teams that operate in inclusive cultures outperform their peers by a staggering 80%. And even with this data being readily available, there's still resistance to support for diversity and inclusion, to removal of implicit bias, and to support for equality. So the first step for handling diversity issues in the workplace is to identify the issues and then work to resolve those issues. There's a real hesitancy for handling these types of things, as cited by that article. So the goal for creating an environment of acceptance and equal opportunity is important. By identifying the challenges and the differences that exist in your unique environment, leaders are better able to examine the diversity issues and determine what changes need to be made. It's just that simple. So, every one of us has the opportunity to become an influencer. Speak up and be heard, place women as leaders and give them decision-making roles if you have that opportunity. Invest in women, take action when you see the opportunity for diversity, be an advocate for others, be honest, share your personal story, Own your success and trust your own voice. Sometimes we have a hesitancy, and as women, we don't do that. And become an active IEEE volunteer, or if you're not interested in IEEE, some other professional organization that aligns with your interests. So my years at IEEE have reinforced for me the relevance and importance of professional associations. There is a significance in being part of a group of people with a shared purpose that goes beyond your own personal self-interest and current career. So no matter how much effort I put into IEEE, I always get back tenfold. And I highly recommend this organization for those if you're not a member. IEEE provides many opportunities for people to get involved and to stretch their volunteer skills and really to give back to the profession. Whether you want to support humanitarian activities, standards, join a society, support a conference, be part of a leadership team. There's just so much opportunity within IEEE to provide support, and I highly recommend involvement. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. There's a new volunteering platform people might not be aware of. You can see the link at the bottom of the slide if you're interested in expanding, looking for some new volunteering. I'm always asked, how do I volunteer? How do I do something? This is a new volunteering platform that has been launched this year. It was expanded from a young professional activity. Check it out if you want to look for additional volunteering activities. So I wanted to thank WIE and the members who participate in WIE. During my years of service with IEEE, those who've known me know I'm a big WIE supporter. And I believe that the women in IEEE are key drivers of tomorrow's innovations, and that you are integral to what we do here at IEEE and for advancing technology for humanity. You're part of IEEE's core strength, and I want you to know that I'm personally committed to you. Your enthusiasm and sense of camaraderie help bolster our efforts to build strong partnerships and cooperation worldwide, and I want to thank you for your efforts. So that's my talk. I want to thank you. I find the concept of true diversity and inclusion to be a very compelling vision for our shared future. And again, I thank you for your dedication and perseverance over this past year. It's been very challenging, and I look forward to the questions during the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Susan. I think we all enjoyed your presentation. Thank you. So we are now moving to our third speaker. So our third speaker is Amir Alani. So he is the Executive Dean of SCE at University of West London. He has 28 years experience in the higher education sector and industry in the UK. He has more than 20 years of experience of R&D in the field of applications of non-destructive testing methods in the assessment and health monitoring of structures and infrastructures. He has more than 220 publications in the civil, construction, medical engineering, and engineering education. So he's the leader of the Farringdon Center, the Non-Destructive Testing Research Center at the University of West London. So we are interested to hear your presentation. So you can start now, Amir, and I'll stop sharing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this fantastic event. And thank you very much for your introduction, Iman. Without further ado, as the title of the presentation, my presentation implies, I'm going to talk about the challenges and opportunities from the higher education sector or universities perspective today. It's a short presentation, and I will leave quite a lot of other materials, hopefully, to later when you will ask us questions or listen to your comments. In terms of opportunities, I think my colleagues earlier, they alluded to quite a lot of opportunities that exist within the higher education sector, and not only in the UK, but all over the globe in institutions and universities. From the employment point of view, I'm not really trying here to sell the environment of universities and higher education is a fantastic environment to work in, which is true, but my point in here is just a summary of the features that you can expect in a university or higher education sector. Educating the nation's future generations is a fantastic goal, isn't it? It is basically a very rewarding profession. So these opportunities do exist in universities, and engaging with exciting and pioneering research and development projects. Universities are basically fantastically placed in working and interacting with industry and professional bodies, and they are at the forefront of really cutting edge technology development. I will come to that under the point number 3. And also it provides an opportunity for whoever works in the university environment to share the knowledge, experience, and with quite a diverse number and disciplines of people, academics, industry professionals, educators, inventors across the globe, not only regionally or nationally, but at global level. And also, it is, as I said, at the forefront of the cutting edge technology developments and influencing our futures, finding solutions for actual problems that we face. Engineering and technology and STEM subjects are all about this. In the UK, in fact, we have the government announced not long ago, billions of pounds will be dedicated for priority areas in development, in technology, and well-being of the nation, which involves engineering and technologists. So, and universities are sitting in the best place that are interacting in terms of development with industry and bringing the vast amount of experience and knowledge that exists. So in terms of now looking at the opportunities in universities from education point of view for younger generations, I have just put in here 4 bullet points. Please have a look at these links. Please look at them, the vast amount of opportunities that exist in terms of grant, bursaries, scholarships across the board offered by industry, professional bodies, trusts, charities. They all are there for empowering women, engaging women in engineering and technology. As I have said, please have a look at these later on when you have time. It is just a drop in an ocean. It's just a small sample of a huge population of opportunities that exist to support women to engage with education in universities. Then also from the universities themselves, there are quite a lot of opportunities, a lot of activities and developments in terms of supporting female population of the nation and country to engage with education. And I have just put a few universities in here. And I'm sure my colleagues who will see this will forgive me that I haven't included them. Again, this is really a small sample of many universities that are engaged with providing opportunities, first-hand opportunities, scholarships to engage more women in engineering and STEM subjects. And I'm not going to go through them one by one because of the scarcity of time. But please, again, just surf around the internet. You will see only in the UK, for example, how many universities are offering support for women to get involved with engineering and technology courses. It would be useful to look at some of the statistics that exist in order to understand the challenges, because as I said, opportunities do exist. However, we need to do more to make people aware and encourage women in our society to engage with engineering and choose a line of education that will enable them to feed into universities and choose their careers. You can have a look at in here that this is from the HESA Higher Education Statistics Agency, 2019-20. You can see for yourself the imbalance in gender in engineering and technology subjects. It is actually, some of these figures are concerning, least said, at least from my personal point of view, that in some areas, okay, it might be a little bit better in computing or IT system, but still look at the total number. It is actually of male and female, so the percentage is still very, very narrow. So we would love to see more women and female population of our countries to get involved in engineering and STEM subjects. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. A few more statistics again, because I've got to make hopefully a good conclusion at the end. And this is again from HESA about the gender balance in research active academics in the UK. And I have purposely selected to include some other subject areas that could be compared to engineering and the built environment area and computing. You can see again a huge imbalance that exists. Unfortunately, this is our universities in the UK. I am fully aware that in some other countries, especially in Europe, pattern is different. And it is now, I'm going a bit step by step back. We look at the number of students in the UK universities at all levels in terms of engineering and STEM subjects. You can see again that male and female proportions in computing, in engineering and technology, and mathematical science, still a huge gap. Why am I doing this? You will see the purpose of it in a moment, but it is good to be aware of the statistics and figures that are as I said earlier, concerning. And this is a bit of information, although it is 2.5 years old, but still very valid, is from the Engineering UK. And it is, what I would like to draw your attention to is, are these three figures. And this is in fact presenting our girls, younger female population at early stages of their studies at high school level. And this is from the basically year 7 to year 10, and then they go to the GCSE level and then to the A levels. You can see the drastic drop of the interest in our female population to choose engineering as a career. Something is happening in here, which is extremely worrying, but it is also revealing a big fact. Again, I will conclude on that in a moment or two. So also, I think it would be useful to present some work that we have done in our School of Computing and Engineering at the University of West London. This is a piece of work that is ongoing with one of my colleagues who is incidentally the chair of the Women in STEM in our school, Elahe. I wonder if she is present in the audience, but we have done some work in here. What we did, we prepared a questionnaire and sent it to a good number of professionals that are active at work. and we kept the balance between male and female. And fortunately, 115 people provided us with their response. And this is, in fact, these are people who are at work, male and female, and from their point of view, you can see that the big reason that why female population are not engaged or not choosing engineering as a career, it's lack of the encouragement that exists and lack of awareness, second, and cultural reasons. So this is people who have experienced basically a primary education, secondary education, and university education. And then we look at the, again, it's a nice and bimodal distribution in terms of what actually encourages the younger female population of the nation to get involved in engineering and computing or STEM subjects. You can see role model, schools, the way our education is, media, capturing really stories and basically positively talking about engineering, that how it is influencing our well-being in the society. And families, again, comes to the culture and the rest. So these are the findings, our findings. And also we looked at the respondents. They believe that promotion of employers, including universities, within the sector, they are not very good. So it needs to improve. And you can see the pattern here. Now, I'm concluding really my presentation in here by what should we do? What should be done? I talked about the challenges, and my aim was really to highlight one of the major parameters that is not encouraging female population to get engaged with engineering and technology courses, to become professionals that hopefully could lead them to study further to their master degrees and PhDs and become academics in universities. You saw the opportunities that do exist, but I do sincerely believe that one of, I emphasize, one of the parameters is the way we educate our younger population, our children, especially girls, female population, to when we are teaching them mathematics or science-based subjects, numerical-based subjects, and the way that they have been subjected to the importance of engineering and technology in our real life. So encouragement is needed. However, quite a lot of activities are going on. Earlier speakers presented fantastic opportunities, work that professional bodies and industry is doing, quite a lot of them. But in my personal view, most of these are sporadic. They are not really glued together. I think this issue needs recognition and real support to take the agenda forward and do something about it in real terms rather than talking about it. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Amir. So we all benefit much from your presentation, and hopefully we can go forward for the opportunities, and then we'll have more chances in our lives. So, and now we are moving to our next speaker. Sorry. So he is Maysam. So he is Electronic and Electrical Engineering Director of Research at Brunel University. He's a Director of Undergraduate Electronic and Electrical Engineering courses at Brunel University, Reader of Electronic Systems with the Department of Electronic and Computer Engineering, Brunel University of London. He has more than 50 papers in journals, 9 chapters in edited books, and more than 50 papers in refereed conferences. So he is a senior member in the IEEE, member of the IET UK, and a chartered engineer in the UK. So we are now with you, Maysam. You can start sharing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. And I will try to do the sharing now and get the presentation to go. Is that clear now? Can you see it?
Yes.
Now? Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for inviting me to this event, and I'll be glad that such an event are happening and promoting women in engineering in particular, because this type of subject is really dominated by males, and then this is one of the efforts that people are trying to get women into these type of work and these type of subjects. And one of these efforts are basically, I think, one of maybe hundreds or thousands of people working towards this goal. And I'm glad that the IEEE is promoting this act, and then they are pushing towards the participating of women in the STEM subjects. The talks which are just happened, I think Susan has mentioned or defined very well what empowering women is, and this is what my talk is about. So she gave a very good definition of the word empowering, and she went into details of what the IEEE are doing and what are the challenges happening there. In addition to Amir, I think Amir has mentioned a very good statistics in terms of what are the women's participation in terms of the subjects, in terms of studying, in terms of management and so forth. So my subject today is going to be all about the top level, basically, which is more into the management and into the basically top jobs as it happened. And because we know that most of the managers and most of the companies are mostly dominated by men, and in particular for technology jobs, which are basically, according to the statistics, less than 30% of women are participating in these type of jobs. And this is something which we are promoting, and we want to make offer the opportunities for women to participate in these types of jobs. According to Forbes, 5% of women is in managerial jobs. And this is something which is changing, I think, especially in the recent years. We can see more women moving into the managerial jobs. And this is something challenging, very challenging, and it's a very big achievement if we can see women are moving into male-dominated area, which is basically, we can, if we look at the 20, 30 years ago, it was a taboo that a woman goes into the managerial job and then basically chairing a company and so forth. So lots of government, companies, and educational institutes are coming together now in order to promote and close the gender gap, in particular in the STEM field, because STEM field basically suffers from the participation of the female in the subject, because most of the topics are basically, it's used to be known as one of these topics that they need muscles, which it's not really a fact anymore, because I think we are moving into a different age where the technology is basically helping a lot in terms of work on these topics. One of the examples that happens at Microsoft, and then this is happening at 2018, and they put a lot of effort in terms of increasing the female participation in the STEM subject. However, their effort, it wasn't that successful as at the end, because they underscored the importance of the hands-on activities, and they didn't look at the strong female participation into the STEM subject. Despite that effort, I think more work needs to be done in order to include women into the STEM subjects. Despite that, if you think of Microsoft, it's mostly to do with computers and with software development and so forth. And if you think of the type of job that people are doing there, it's mostly coding and programming. And if you don't think this is type of job that needs lots of physical efforts and so forth, because this is one of the barriers that people thinking of, that because some of the jobs that need physical power, women cannot do them, which is not the right thing. Basically, this is something which is we should not really consider as an obstacle for going to these type of jobs. So Microsoft has basically, I think they have moved on since then, and then I think they are more into looking at involving women in most of the jobs they are doing at the company, basically. So one of the technologies that empowering women nowadays, mostly if we think about the STEM subjects, is coding, because most of the subjects nowadays are based on coding. If you look at any particular field, mechanical, civil, any type of engineering subjects, they all require nowadays coding, because you can push these systems to go to a further, to certain limits in terms of the physical achievement, but you need programming in order to push these topics or subjects or disciplines in order to achieve better. If you think of a car like 20 years ago, it was mostly mechanical, but once they introduced the computer control systems inside the car, now the car, I think it's mostly 50% is electronics and the other 50% is mechanical. So we need coders, we need engineers, and we need people they can start programming and they can work on these type of developments. And women are basically they are basically suitable for these type of subjects. And but the idea here is that we need to train them, we need to get them into online, and we need to get them to participate in these type of subjects. Some of the efforts that have been happening, for example, girls who can code, and I think these are mostly in the States. These are some of the initiatives that happen in the States. They offer summer programs, clubs, and pathways to encourage people to learn to code, which is something that I think it's freely available nowadays, especially with the recent situation with the COVID. I think most of the people are working from home. They have more access to the computing facilities. They have to spend a lot of time on working on the computers as well. Not in terms of programming as well, or basically, or girls. We're thinking of people who are from different backgrounds, like this effort here, which is called Black Girls Can Code as well. And this is again happened, I think it was in the States as well. And then they are looking at girls who can start coding, and they are looking at a younger age, between 7 and 17. And this is the right age to get people involved into these type of subjects, because changing field at a later age and changing subject and changing specialization, it's a bit more difficult for them, especially if they have commitments to their family, to their workplace, and basically to the topic that they are working on. And this is one of the things that we should look at as well, which is shifting career into a technology-based field, which is something that is happening nowadays. We can get them into basically lots of technology-based type of work. So there are some initiatives as well, like this initiative as well, which is called Society of Women Engineers. It's like a 12-week returnship program for people who want to, who had a career break. We know some of the people, they would like to go away for a year or so. It depends on whether they want to raise a family or they just want to have a break from the work. And when they come back, usually they find it difficult to re-engage back into work, especially if you want to go back into the STEM subjects or the engineering subjects. This is something which they need to be trained for before they come and start working. Basically, if you want to change the field of work, this is something which is available. And one of the other things which we should really look at is the hiring process. Most of the companies which they are hiring people, they look at the gender to start with, which is one of the obstacles, I believe, that they would stop women from being employed into engineering subjects. we used to have in the past, which basically the age was one of the factors, and that doesn't apply to women. It applies to men and women, of course. But now this has been removed, so it's illegal to put the age into, or to consider the age as part of the hiring process. But this is something which we need to push on for, is the gender. I don't think we should put the gender as well on the CV. So we should consider the people equal, like male and female, and we can hire them based on their qualification and based on the jobs that they can do. So most of the hiring tools nowadays are mostly computer-based. And this is when we can introduce these type of changes into these type of systems in order to eliminate the biasing based on the gender. Other difficulties, basically the culture and workspace. And I think Susan has mentioned at the beginning that people have different habits, different cultures. And if you look at some of the countries, basically it's taboo for women to go and work in places when dominated by men. Some of the countries, even they don't allow girls to go to school, which are something that we could look at as well. So the culture has a very big effect on these type of like an obstacle or difficulties. And this is something which we can be addressing. One of the things is basically the working hours. Some of the people, they are committed to their families, they have kids, they go to school, they need to go and pick up their kids from school, or basically if they have other commitments at home. This is something which we can address by working in flexible hours. As you know, nowadays, most of the people are working from home. So you really don't need to be physically in a place in order to work. This is something which can solve this problem of being able to work from home, being able to work at any particular time of the day. It doesn't have to be really 9 to 5 in a special place in order to do the work. And then we can provide work-life balance as well. So we are promoting women to go and work in the engineering subject, but that doesn't mean that we're going to just keep them working. They have life as well. They need to participate in their social life and their family life and so forth. So we need a work balance as well for them to work. It's not like, okay, we're going to let you to work in and they're going to basically lock you in to work the whole time and then forget about your social life and family life. Some of the companies are working on a 5-year plan. And this is something which is important, because if you don't start preparing people to go into particular jobs, you're not going to be able to employ these type of people. So some of the companies are looking at enabling women for managerial positions. And I think mostly it's happening in the universities as well. So there are lots of sessions which are, or training sessions that allow people or women in particular to go and address their managerial skills and to be a leader as well. And we're seeing that happening nowadays in most of the universities. And I think Amir has showed a list of universities which are basically all the VCs are women. And this is something encouraging that things are happening and things are changing as well. In addition to that one, the changes in the recruitment habits, of course. This is something which we need to address in terms of the type of the job. It shouldn't be restricted to men. It should be one of the inspiring things which I was watching a movie recently. It's called Hidden Figures, and I think maybe most of you have watched it. It's looking at 3 women who were in NASA working for landing the vehicle on the moon. And then these 3 women, I think they were not allowed to work into the engineering subject. I think the platform was very inspiring. I watched it. I really felt that something is happening in there, and this is something that we can all learn from. To conclude, I think, and this is something which Susan mentioned as well, it's the mentorship And the IEEE does provide mentorship for people, for women to go and start working in different fields. And mentorship is very important because in order to help a person, you need to mentor them. One of the issues here is basically to find a good mentor that basically push the person into the right topic, into the right subject in order to thrive and then to start working on the particular topic. We need as well the organization support into the STEM subjects. And this is happening as well nowadays. We can see lots of universities and companies who are basically encouraging women to go into the STEM subjects and basically assigning mentors for them to move into these type of careers. Another point, which is building an internal structure to help women to thrive by providing management, leadership, development components, not only training, we need networking as well, mentoring, of course, talent developments, and work-life balance as well. This is important, which I have mentioned earlier. And we need to be flexible in terms of what they can do or to balance between their social life and then work life as well. Lastly, it's a multidimensional topic. It's not going to happen by just looking at one of the issues to solve. It's a big topic. You need to consider all the aspects in terms of helping women or empowering women in order to thrive into these type of subjects and move into these type of management positions, because that was my really main issue which I have come out with, which is the managerial position, that we can see that it's not really dominated by the female, it's mostly male area that women are moving into now. And I think they are making progress as well, and they are making success, which is most important, because it's one of the important things is that to have an example that a woman moved into the management subject and then she has thrived and she has become very successful in that subject. That doesn't mean only the person itself, but the company or the university or whatever institution that the leaders are leading in order to get them into a better position. I think that will be the last page which I'm presenting. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maysam. That was interesting. Now we are moving to our next speaker. So our next speaker is Ruth. So she's the chair of the ACMW Europe. Ruth runs her own consultancy business, Crave Technology Consulting. And please excuse me if I pronounce it wrong, Ruth. Lecturer with Latham Institute of Technology for 20 years. She's educator and evangelist for DevOps. She's member of the ACM, IEEE, and chairs of the NSAI Cloud Computing and Distributed Platform. So we are excited and we are waiting for you, Ruth, to share your interesting presentation.
There we go. We're unmuted at last. Thank you very much, Iman, for the opportunity to speak as much as anything else. I have been at this, the idea of promoting women in computing, since I started in computing many years ago. I had my own challenges. I came from a very rural farming background, and on the farm, you just have to get stuck in. You have to fix your own tractors. You have to do whatever needs to be done. And that led me to want to pursue a career in engineering. But I always understood that I was different because I wanted to do that, because I wanted to get involved in more technical hands-on things. And it came with challenges that I'm ashamed to say that many times I felt like quitting. And if it weren't for the people around me, I probably would have, and I wouldn't be standing here today. So I think it's really important we spend time to build our personal network, because we can't meet the challenges alone. You're a very rare person if you can do all of this alone. And if we listen to the speakers who came here and spoke before me, every one of them talked about opportunities that are available. There is help, there is opportunities if we seek them out. But where do we look? And often we look by word of mouth. We find out from somebody we know, somebody recommends a path to us. And once we get onto that path, then we can move forward. There's been lots of great advice so far this morning. There are plenty of bits that I didn't know, and I'm sure there are pieces that you didn't know either. So let's keep sharing that advice. Let's network. Let's figure out what we can do. We've heard about the challenges and we've heard about some of the opportunities. Now let's talk about the action. How do we actually move forward? What actions can we take? Without help, we can't find these. We can't move forward. So we know we need to take these actions. But did you know these actions are working in some countries? In Lithuania, 57% of scientists and engineers are female. In Bulgaria, it's 52% are female. Latvia, 52%. And Denmark, 51%. So why don't we have the same? We're not making the time to help women in computing. We're seeking help, but we're not providing help. It has to be both ways. So let's see, what can we do? There are lots of networks out there. In fact, in the UK alone, the Professional Associations Research Network has made a study, and they have found over 400 professional bodies, 400 networks that you can join in order to find those opportunities. That represents 13 million different professionals. And most people here are a member of a professional network, that being the IEEE or the ACM or both, or many other organizations that can help. Because we've already identified the fact that, as Kathy had said herself, you gain more than you could ever possibly give by volunteering in these organizations. And you don't have to volunteer. You can sit as a member and participate by attending events and learning and listening to others. You don't have to be one of those forward-facing people. If you choose to, we'd love to have you. But if you choose to sit back, if you want to be quiet, you of course should have the ability to do so. So let's be part of these professional networks. Let's see what we can do. Some of the types of networks that are out there are technical based. They're focused on your technical careers and how we can move forward based on some common interest. So for example, when I was being introduced, it was mentioned that I was a member of the NSAI, which is the National Standards Association of Ireland, and also the ISO, which is the International Standards Organization. So that's strongly technically based, and you're there to contribute. But you gain more out of meeting other people who are involved. Those are the professional networks that help you get jobs later on. There's also the professional networks, which talk about how you can grow your career, how you can move within your career, whether it's laterally or vertically, that's up to you. But those are specifically career-based, as opposed to focus on a single key technical area. There are many other types of networks, maybe talking about personal growth. And again, you can use those. They're quite good. Coaches and mentors have been already mentioned as to their role and how they can be used to support you in your movement, or even just staying where you are, but being happy in the job that you're in. If you get up each morning and ask yourself, are you happy today to go to work? And if the answer is yes, much more often than it's no, then that's great. You are where you want to be. If the answer is no, if you dread getting up in the morning, you're in the wrong job, and it can be hard to get out of it. Having a network of friends that you can ask about opportunities, about what they think might be the right role for you, to give you ideas of what to think about to move forward. that will help. You shouldn't take anybody's advice and say, I'll follow what she said just because she said it. It should be, I'll use what she said to give me an idea. Because ideas spark something that will help us learn our own path. You can expand your opportunities as part of these networks. You can have conversations with thought leaders that you might not otherwise have had opportunities to do. Certainly, I'm aware of opportunities within the IEEE and the ACM in order to meet the people who literally wrote the book on certain things. We've already heard about the CVs of some of the people here who have written several books. You can develop new ideas and perspectives because you're hearing about a new technique, a new technology, and you can see how that might apply to your area. Maybe that's helping you with a pain point that you have in your job. You can get recognition for the work that you do. Maybe you're really good at your work and it isn't recognized. And I'd say most of us have been there at least at one point or another in our career, no matter how good you are, no matter where you are now. I'm sure you can identify a time in your career where you can say, I worked really hard, but I was never recognized for that work. Applying for awards, such as the IEEE UK and WIE awards that have just been announced by Annabel, will help you get that recognition. Sometimes within your own company, you're not recognized. But when you get recognized externally for your work, suddenly your own company starts to listen. They start to pay attention. How many times have you come up in your work and said, I've got a good idea of how to fix this problem, and yet they hire in an external consultant, or they listen to somebody because they're not in the company. They're from a different country even, therefore they must know more. It's not true. They might know more, but they might not. We need to be recognized for our work in order to be able to move forward. Sometimes this can open up new career paths. Having that recognition can help us realize new jobs that we want to go for. And most importantly, it gives us an opportunity to shape our future the way we want it to go. Again, this harkens back to something that Kathleen Land had said in her opening presentation, where she discussed that you want to take the career that suits you. It's of your choice. You should have the right to choose your career. So we want to be able to do that. And to do that, we're using our professional networks. So we're raising our profile. We're looking to get exposed to new opportunities. We're looking for new perspectives on how we do things. And of course, we're building relationships with other people who will be positive in their contributions to our future. But remember, pay it back as well. You should be a positive contribution to their future. So let's think about this. Have you heard of the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know? Well, unfortunately, it's often the case that unless you know the right person, they won't take the time to find out what you know. The truth is, it isn't what you know. What you know is there and it's skill, but until somebody can recognize it, it's not worth a lot. So how do you get them to see you and see your value? That's where the who you know kicks in. That's where our professional networks can help us overcome these challenges and open up new opportunities for us. Take, for example, Robin Dunbar, who is the director of the Institute of Cognitive and Evolutionary Anthropology at Oxford. Glad I got through that in one phrase. They tell me that you can keep in touch with only 150 of your main contacts in your networks. So you want to make contacts, but you want to make good contacts. Some of the contacts you're going to make, you're going to lose them. They're vaguely keeping an eye on what you want or what you do. And you're doing the same for them. Who are those key 150 contacts? Did you know that in less than 50 milliseconds, you make your first impression on somebody? So if those 150 contacts are going to be your key contacts, you want to make sure that you've made a good impression on them when you're building that network. Your 150 contacts will help you and guide you, not just now, but in the future. And it may be that they recommend you for a job that you hadn't applied for. Perhaps you didn't even know about. Perhaps it hadn't even been advertised. I can tell you that's happened to me very recently. This is not an uncommon thing. People who recommend you, that's a stronger recommendation than you putting yourself forward for a job, for a task. So you want to make sure that that network you build is a good network. It's also been noted that 70% of people in 2016 were hired at a company where they had a connection. They were already known or known about from that company. That came from the network. Somebody in the network were recommending them. Somehow their name got handed about. Dale Carnegie, in one of his books, wrote that he spent some time, every time he would go into the company, a particular company he was selling a product to, he would say good morning to everybody he passed. And that included the person sweeping the floor or filling the vending machines. He'd say, good morning and how are you? Not that fleeting good morning where you don't actually care about the person underneath, but the real good morning where you say, how's it going? Great day, isn't it? You spend that just extra second. What happened was, the people at the lower levels of the company started to talk about him and recommend him to the highest level boss. And it was from that connection, from the fact that he said hello to the people sweeping the floor right through to the top, that was the connection that got him the bigger job. Don't underestimate your personal networks. The people who you meet, you make an impression on them, and that impression will help you. So greater than a casual conversation in LinkedIn. Sorry, I forgot to put there the number. Greater than 20 to 50% of people having a casual conversation on LinkedIn leads to a solid sale, a connection, or a job. So it's not just having the connect with me, you've connected, end of conversation. It's more than that. It's on whatever the seasonal greetings might be for that particular person, or maybe when they post something that they've won an award to say, well done you. Something small, but a personal message helps build that connection. And that's what we lead forward to separate our 150 key connections from those who are loosely following us. So again, keep an eye on our networks. I've talked generally about our networks, but our networks must be diverse in order to be able to provide us the most help possible. If we're diverse in our networks, we might be diverse in the career paths. So we have people in different career paths as part of our networks because they can help advise us to different things that might impact on our own career paths. It'll also help us understand when opportunities are coming up. If we have them at different career levels, we can look at moving up the way within our path. But it's not just enough to look up the way, also look sideways, because sometimes the opportunities can come out of places that you haven't anticipated. We also need to think about social and cultural diversity. If we expand ourselves in our social areas, we can find that we open up new ideas for ourselves and how we wish to progress. It may be ideas about how we work, but let's take it away from how we work. Maybe it's simply about feeling good about ourselves. And if we don't feel good about ourselves, go back to what I said in the morning. If you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling good, that's not a place you want to be in. So our social networks allows us an opportunity to give to the network, and we gain more in our own self-esteem, our own consciousness about how we think about what we do. We gain more from contributing than we do from taking. Again, this is something you've heard from the earlier speakers. Diversity is often considered terribly narrowly about race or even gender, but we need to contribute in ways that are much greater than that. Part of it being our professional network to improve our skills or our outlook. And part of it is our career paths, our career levels, social or cultural differences. But each of these things are different, and we need a little bit of each inside this personal network. And that's a good thing. If we combine all of these, we get a different perspective. Those perspectives help us improve our environment, which help us to grow. It helps the society in general. We contribute to these personal networks, and we contribute to society by attending and listening at events such as this, by learning about the society, by learning about opportunities that are there for us. We also contribute by being a mentor or coach ourselves. As much as you're looking to move forward into a new area, perhaps there's somebody underneath you who's also looking forward to moving up into the level you're in. Could you help them? What will you gain from that? Do you have to gain from it? Is it simply a case of you feel better about yourself? And then also facilitating others. How we facilitate them will help us to build our network, which we can fall back on later should we need it. We've talked a lot about the IEEE, but I'd like to introduce the ACM as well as being another professional network. I'm a member of the IEEE and I'm a member of the ACM. In fact, I'm the chair of the ACMW Europe, which promotes and facilitates women in computing across Europe. So why am I a member of both committees? Because these networks are complementary to each other. They both work to promote women in computing and engineering. They both provide opportunities for volunteering. They both provide awards and grants and other things, but they do it in different ways. And it does give us good opportunities. So for example, within the ACM, one of the things that we can do is we can attend events. Some focus specifically on women, such as Women Courage, which is happening in September. We also have our blogs and our social media sites, which allow our members to connect on a personal one-to-one level. On our newsletters, we ask people to contribute articles for consideration for inclusion in the newsletter. And this, of course, is for our conferences and our journals and so on. But there are awards too, and senior levels as well. Senior levels within the network will help you be recognized for your work. Now, I know that Annabel has already mentioned the great work of the IEEE UK and I regarding senior membership levels for this year, which has increased greatly. And we offer something similar inside the ACM. So remember, these are complementary networks. We're not competing against each other. But I won't focus too much on that. I said I wanted to focus on action. So now I'm calling you to action. So I want you to connect with the people here today. I want you to think about who is here that will be good for you, will provide advice for you, will provide positivity for you. Now, if you try to connect to somebody on LinkedIn or Facebook or other, the first thing they're going to go is, who is that? How do I know that person? So when you connect, don't just hit connect. Make sure that you include 3 short statements, as short as possible. And the first being, who are you? Then, where did you meet? And finally, what is it why do you want to connect? What is the reason behind your connection request here? If I have 1,000 people following my profile and 150 are the people I really use as my key people, how do I find you personally out of those 1,000 people? Well, one of the things I'll do is I'll go to the messages and I'll search for your name. Then I'll find the message which says, hey, we met at the Challenges and Opportunities event. Ah, now I know where you're from. Now we can talk some more. You're not just a random person trying to connect to me. You're somebody I had a good reason. And now I remember exactly what it was. You presented something really well, or you asked lots of good questions. Make the connection and make it personal. So spend some time today after this event, making the connection with the people you've met. So I'm going to conclude now. And I'm going to conclude again with an idea about how we can move forward and what we should be doing. First, most important of all, aim for the stars. There is nothing to stop you, only you. There are supports there, so aim for the stars. Construct your own personal network, that support network who will help you to get there. And manage your career, but manage it your way, not the way somebody else thinks it should go. You choose. Increase your diversity through your professional networks. Notice the word networks, not one, but multiple, because they all offer different things. Expose yourself to opportunities. It's nice to go for a job interview. It's nice to be headhunted. You don't have to accept the job if you don't want to, but you can see what's out there. Enhance your key contacts. Make sure that you've got that diversity across your networks, and evolve your standing within the community. You change, you grow, you support. Evolve as you go. Remember, by being here, we raise the issue of diversity. By talking about it, we raise awareness. By doing something, we raise the bar. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ruth. This was very inspiring. So thank you. So, and now, so we are moving to our next speaker. So it's last but not least. So we are waiting now for Ifey to present her presentation. She is Senior Site Reliability Engineer Manager at Sky. So she's fully qualified, certified ISEP test management practitioner. She has more than 20 years of experience in the technology industry. She is leading and managing the integration and defect management activities for projects within Sky's technology department. In 2019, she was elected as a Sky Forum representative and appointed to a diversity action group driving changes across the whole of Sky as a business to make it more diverse and inclusive. So please share your presentation, and we are excited and waiting for what you're going to say.
Thank you. Let me start by sharing my screen. Please let me know once you can see that as well.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay. Right, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me and having me on your panel. It's a great honor and privilege to be part of this. So my talk today is being resilient and steadfast in tech. I would like to take you through my career journey and share on some of my experiences on being resilient and steadfast in tech. And I'll do this by taking you through a series of questions. So I'll start with, right, okay. So how did I get into the industry and what role did I start out in? So I'm going to go back to 1992 when I was coming to the end of my A-levels. There was a big push to encourage more women into engineering. So I was fortunate enough when I went through an application to have been awarded a sponsorship with the BBC for studying an electrical, electronic and communication engineering degree at City University in London. And during the vacation periods, I worked in the studios as a studio engineer, where we did pat testing on all the equipment and lining up of cameras. On graduating, I continued in broadcast and got a role with NTL in their network operations area, where we monitored the broadcasting signals of the transmitter systems for the terrestrial TV channels and radio channels, quite close to Crystal Palace, where they have their main broadcasting transmitting antenna. And we were able to remotely control the systems to avoid network failures or failover to redundant systems during maintenance outages. So I spent some time with NTL and then moved to Sky in 1998 when NTL relocated their main office to Croydon in Emley Moor up in Yorkshire. So I joined Sky at this point as an MCR engineer, which was in the time of analog broadcasts before they transitioned into digital. And this was looking after the incoming feeds, checking and making sure that the quality and strength of the signals was good before being switched to other areas for broadcast. I also, within this period, was able to help start a new role to support their transition to digital broadcasts called NCE, which stood for Network Control Engineer. And this role was a first-line desk support position for incoming faults on the production broadcast systems. I did this for a year before moving into a broadcast support engineering role, which was the second line support for resolving any of the production issues, upgrading their systems and providing maintenance. So I held a few more engineering roles within broadcast area, to name a few: authentication systems engineer. Essentially, this was a security engineer essentially a security engineer role. And then I moved into an integration and test engineer across the broadcast systems before being promoted and moving into more management as a software test manager role. Then I moved over to an OTT video streaming part of the business, and I held a delivery manager role and then a senior SRE manager role, which is where I find myself today. So my current role at Sky as a senior site reliability engineering manager involves driving for a reliable, performant, quality assured platform and building tooling capabilities for our delivery teams. I have a team of 17 people who cover skills and roles from analysts, software developers, system engineers, and platform engineers who are pretty much subject matter experts in the field of platform validation. So my passion is always around identifying gaps and improving the performance of our platform systems and ultimately producing the best viewing experience for our customers. So really, if I reflect back in the last 20 years or so, I've been able to successfully move around within technology and engineering areas. So if I move on to the next slide. So what keeps me excited about the industry? I'd say what keeps me excited about the industry is the continuous evolving and changing of technology. Just from my journey, I've experienced such a change along the way. There hasn't been a moment of boredom. It keeps you learning about new technologies, advancing the way things are done, and also allowing for the introduction of improvement and refinement, building and creating new products and tools. So what have I learned about the industry during my career? As I mentioned earlier, it's always evolving and changing. I've learned that I can move around it quite freely once you're in it. And there are lots of opportunities to try different roles and to do different things. I would also add that you need to exercise resilience, as there may still be behaviors within the industry that don't always make you feel that they're inclusive. But I would always say, where you can, make your presence known and felt. Build networks with other women in the industry to help build your confidence. It can sometimes be a very lonely place otherwise. So link up with other women doing similar things is always something I would advise. And finally, we've heard this before, get a mentor and sponsor to help you navigate your career. Really important, as you can learn so much from their guidance. Also extend yourself to being a mentor and sponsor for other women coming up behind you. I learned this quite late in my career, but having a mentor and sponsor has been so invaluable to me. And from what I've found as well, you can also have more than one. So what are the qualities people need to thrive, be successful, and remain steadfast in the industry? I've mentioned this before. Being curious, innovative, creative, and solving problems are good qualities to have. Being able to be a team player is also important, and sharing your knowledge, bouncing ideas between colleagues is a great way of innovating something new and exciting. If you like being pushed by challenges, this is definitely an area you'd thrive. Having a bit of a thick skin and being resilient is another quality that helps. It will combat some of those feelings of imposter syndrome, feelings of being excluded that may creep up, and feelings of not being taken seriously or being listened to. You learn to persevere and endure, which is part of building your resilience. And finally, I'd say pull in allies, pull in male allies especially, where you can lean on them for support. So why do I have a passion for there being an inclusive and well-being culture in tech? I'm a strong believer in that the more diverse and inclusive our collaboration is, the better the technology products we create and innovate. I've seen firsthand what can be achieved when this sort of culture is nurtured and in place, and I can see how different perspectives really open up our view of the world. Our well-being is so important, both from a mental and physical perspective. Having had a period in my life where I'd experienced poor mental health, I really appreciate the impact this has on our overall performance. I've quoted this before, and I have a deep understanding with the teams I've worked with, is that if we're not okay, we can't deliver and perform at our best. So I'll conclude by saying, why should people listening consider a career in this sector? I would conclude by saying, if you are innovative, creative, and curious, I would highly recommend this industry for you. I feel very enthused by all the changes I have witnessed. I've been able to put my creative and problem-solving skills to use through ownership of personal projects within. I also enjoy the team spirit and camaraderie of working in teams. There is so much range of skill sets in this sector that you will always find something you like and enjoy. So finally in tech, being resilient is something that would happen naturally through your endurance and perseverance at overcoming challenges. Staying steadfast is what you need to do so that you can build some muscle memory and strength, which can be used in the face of adversity. And this brings me to the end of my talk. Thank you very much. So here are some of the software engineering careers we're hiring for at Sky at the moment. And for anyone interested, there is a link to our early careers website at Sky, where you can look at some of our software engineering roles that are available, or just register your interest, or simply hook me up on LinkedIn, where I can signpost you to opportunities. Thanks again.
So thank you, Ifey, so much. We enjoyed your presentation. So, and now we have ended the speaker's presentation, and we arrived to the section that is Q&A. So, and we have some questions. So I have the first question to Susan. I'll say the question for you, and if you like, I can put it again in the chat box so that you can read it. So the question was, what would be your advice to male colleagues to make the workplace a better place for women? And then it has another part. Are there any particular committees in WIE where male engineers can get involved? So I'll just paste it again in the box so that you can read this.
Let me open up the chat box.
Yeah.
So Saeed, I don't see it in chat, but if you can repeat the first question again, my apologies.
Yeah. Okay.
Advice to women in the workplace?
Yeah.
Okay. What would be your advice to male colleagues to make the workplace a better place for women? I'm not going to limit it to male colleagues. So there's a very interesting book that I think is a must read for anyone at work. It's called The Bully at Work. And because I'm a real, I don't know if it's because of the way I was raised or what, but I don't tolerate bullies at all in any environment. And I'm a manager, so I don't tolerate it in other managers or people that work for me or anything. But it's a must read for anyone at work. And the statistic in there is startling. And it says that 70% of bullies at work are women managers. Now, I don't know if that's the current statistic. So I really am very glad that people that are able to find women colleagues who are empowering, that's wonderful. Some of my experience, and I don't know if it's the environment I work in, it's getting better now. But there are not that many women to begin with, but sometimes, especially in the early days, the women, it was so competitive. They weren't that empowering. My advice is, now it's better. So to find a mentor is wonderful. My advice is that you just treat everyone with respect, regardless of gender, and look to the human being inside. Regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of anything. When we treat each other as human beings, I think sometimes we lose sight of that, and we try to categorize people we need to start looking for the humanity in all of us. So that's my advice. And I think particularly these days, we try to be so politically correct. We have lost something in the workplace. So we need to start having conversations again to try to get to, really what matters between all of us. So that's my answer. I don't know if it's the right answer. That's just my answer. Let's see. Are there any committees in WIE? So WIE is open to men and women. Every committee is open to men and women. So you can get involved in any committee in WIE that you want to get involved in. There are every opportunity in WIE is open to a man or woman or anyone. So if you are interested in any activity going on in WIE, you're encouraged to join. So it's just a matter of what your interest is for WIE, and you're encouraged to participate. There is a $25 membership fee to join WIE. You can participate. I want to tell this to anyone listening. We in IEEE tend to say, become a member, become a member. I always surprise people when I say I was a volunteer for IEEE for 3 years in standards. You can volunteer in working groups and not pay. You can do that for free. So I was a volunteer for IEEE for 3 years before I joined. And I joined because I wanted to ballot on the standard that I was working on. So there are many activities in IEEE that you can do and support and volunteer and not pay money to join, until you feel comfortable being a member. So don't get caught up in being a member or paying money until you're comfortable. Or if you want to join up right away, then do that. But anyway, there's tons of activities to participate in.
One other point, Susan, if you just mention the mentoring program. So for example, here in IEEE Women in UK, we had this ambassador scheme, just a mentoring program. Is there any relevant mentorship program for IEEE in other countries? It would be really good for the audience to know about it.
So you can go to Collaboratech. The biggest mentoring program in IEEE is available if you go to IEEE.org and you look at the top right of your screen, and you don't have to be a member of IEEE. We've tried to really open this stuff up. I've been on the board of directors a number of times and been involved in IEEE for a lot of years. And every time I was on the board, I kept trying to push a number of things. Was Collaboratech, which is this membership tool that you don't have to be a member to participate in. Another is that you didn't have to have a college degree to be a member of IEEE. You have to have 5 years experience. We're trying to make IEEE more of a mentoring organization. It still has lots of rigor, to be an IEEE fellow is extremely prestigious, that type of thing, to be a senior member. But we need to make IEEE more embracing, right, and less threatening. But so go to IEEE.org. You look in the right top of the screen, there's a little C. You click on that, you join IEEE Collaboratech, and there's a mentoring feature in there, and you can find a mentor. There's also on tryengineering.org. I've put in the chat that we've launched a tremendous STEM portal. Part of my vision as president is that we want to encompass the whole life cycle for technologists. And that's K through 12. We have the middle part pretty covered, right? With students and young professionals. And then the ILN, the Learning Network, was launched last year, and that's post-professional development. So now we have the whole life cycle of the technologists covered. But check out tryengineering.org if you've not seen that. It's a phenomenal site. So anyway, there's a mentoring opportunity in tryengineering.org as well.
Thank you very much. Any other question from the audience?
Yes, there is another question for Amir. So I'll paste it as well, and then I'll get for him. So the question is, how do you ensure that female staff are supporting in going for promotions for senior roles?
Can you hear me? Yeah. In higher education systems, there is a very clear promotion procedures. So, and it is open for female or male, women or men, it doesn't matter. and there are criteria identified in there. And some of them are basically roles that the individuals should have experienced and excelled, and also achievements that need to be basically and there is this procedure, which is not basically my procedure or individuals' procedures. It is in the university. The universities, at least in our university and 5 others that I have had the pleasure of working in the past. So there is a clear criteria for promotion. But I think the essence of this question is in what can we do more to engage women to be promoted to senior roles. And I think there are incentives, could create incentives that, but more women coming to the higher education, that really will help that, in fact, the competition is fairer. But again, as far as I can say, in my personal experience, there isn't any bias towards women. It might be somewhere, there might be some bias somewhere else, but I haven't experienced it. So there is a clear criteria for this. And hopefully what we can do, or I can do as a manager, is that to facilitate women members of the staff in my school could achieve or have roles that will lead them to tick those boxes that are required to be promoted. That is a commitment that I personally am very, very strong about.
Hi, can I add?
Yes, please. Yes, go on.
But I'm from Manchester Met University, and I led the Athena Swan project for my department, computing, which is aimed at getting more women into the sector. What we've done in my faculty and university is to lead workshops for promotion that are women only, that have women role models talking about how they went for it, what, you know, I guess generally it's kind of, I was quite nervous. I didn't think I was ready. So telling their stories to a women only audience, and that actually is quite good in terms of encouraging. So that's one thing I would definitely say is a really good bit of practice that we should all do. Thanks.
I can talk about U.S. Department of Defense practices.
Yes,
and U.S. civil service, which I think are pretty good. We have about 35% women and women in senior leadership roles. What they do is they have very proactive diversity programs, not just for women, but for all gender, you know, all metrics. And they are the metrics are collected yearly, and they are reported to Congress. So, you know, when you collect the metrics and you report the metrics, people pay attention to the measures. Those are the types of activities we're taking, the type of things we're doing in IEEE, but we're collecting metrics voluntarily. So for all the societies and councils and technical activities, we're starting with the committees in IEEE, we're collecting voluntary metrics and reporting those across, and we'll have a diversity report that will be reported to the membership and publicly. But when people realize you're going to report their metrics and say, well, we have no women, we have nobody from Region 10, we have nobody from Region 8, and we haven't for the past 3 years, they start to look around when they're nominating, and they get people on their committees. It gets, you know, so that's what we're doing.
Example, yeah. Well, we've got a question for, I think, Dr. Maysam. If you have a look at this one, thank you for the talk today. I'm not a member, but considering becoming one, I've got a question. I'm struggling to obtain funding for a technical project involving women and technology. Where would you advise? What's your advice that I should take?
Yeah, I think there are lots of opportunities nowadays, especially the government in the UK after departing from the EU. They have made available lots of money for research, and it's not only the Research Council which you can look at. There are other institutions as well, charitable institutions like Welcome, and I think other ones as well available. There are other institutions as well, or organizations like Innovate UK, and they have lots of grants for innovation and for participating in with companies, but you really need a company to solve a problem for. So it is something that is opportunistic. Of course, you have to have a lot of support, and then you have to have the right project which is available. But nevertheless, I think these are nowadays available, a lot of them. In addition to that one, the EU as well, now it's open for the UK to participate as well. Although the EU is a bit more involved, you need a network to create, but within any institution, like any university, you still have the research office which can support you with these type of applications. They can generate networks, they can direct you into the right direction in terms of the projects, the joining a consortium and so forth. So the opportunities are available there, but you really need to look for them. It's not only the PSRC or the Research Council which is available nowadays. So a bit of work will help, of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Iman.
So yeah, thank you all for everything and for your talks and for answering the questions. Just before we go for the closure, so I already shared the emails of our speakers on the chat box, but it's here now if everyone wants to have this email so that you can contact the speakers later if you have any questions. If any question just came to your mind, they are really happy to answer all your questions. And then I invite you to go for a feedback survey just to tell us what we are doing today. And I'll put this URL on the chat box as well. And thank you for everything. And now I'll hand over to Nagham for the closure. I'll just stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Iman. And thank you everyone for this fruitful and unique experience. I'm really glad that we have the recording to share in our media later on, because I need to look at all the advices that's been given today, and I'm sure even our audience share this with me. We witnessed talks about challenges and how to overcome them from our speaker, who have a range of different backgrounds. Today we learned from expert engineers from academia and industry how to pursue further opportunities in different areas of interest. We also brought attention on how to support women in their career. I believe we reached this workshop objective by knowing that facing the challenge is a step forward towards success. We also understand how to find new opportunities and building connection between the expert engineers from academia and industry. Before the end of this workshop, I would like to thank the Women in STEM group in the University of West London and Sky Early Career Recruitment Team, and the IEEE Women in UK Women in Engineering Committee member for their attendance. And finally, I would like to take the opportunity to have a screenshot with our speakers and our audience from Nigeria, United Kingdom, Ireland, USA, Japan, Egypt, and Ukraine. We would like to publish it later on in our social media. Hence, I think if Ruth can help with activating the audience camera. If you are happy to share your camera, that would be great.
Great to see all the faces.
Yes. Ready?
Yes.
Shall we say cheese? Thank you very much. Is there anyone who's still waiting to activate? Shall I take another one? Thank you very much. Done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I will stop the recording. Bye.
Thank you for organising.
You're welcome.